Hi guys, tonight we step beneath a creaking cypress gate, torches hissing in the mist. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I love seeing who drifts through these moonlit halls with us. Now dim the lights, maybe crack a window for that cedar-cool draft, and breathe in. You kneel on straw mats that smell of charcoal or moss and unopened futures. The letter in your father's sleeve can buy you silk, or exile. You're 16. That counts as middle age for medieval marriage markets. The family Nakodo clears his throat like a sword leaving its scabbard. He slides forward an ink-brushed dossier. The groom's rice stipend, sword length, even the shape of his skull. Romance? That's a foreign word from a country you can't afford to visit. Your palms sweat against the rough hemp of your kimono. The matchmaker's eyes scan you like a merchant appraising rice at a market. He notes your teeth, still mostly intact, and the width of your hips. Good for childbearing, he mutters. You taste copper in your mouth. Fear has a flavour, and it's worse than week-old miso soup. The prospective husband's scroll unfurls with the sound of Judgment Day. Spoiler, your opinion wasn't requested. His family owns 300 koku of rice land. That's enough to feed a small army or buy you like a particularly expensive horse. The document lists his accomplishments. Proficient with a katana, can read 17 kanji, and hasn't died of smallpox yet. In Edo-era Japan, that practically makes him husband of the year. Listen to the soft crackle of the oil lamp beside you. Your mother sits statue still, her face a masterpiece of suppressed emotion. She knows what you're thinking because she thought it too, 20 years ago in this same room. The only difference, her dowry was 3 bolts of silk and a ceramic tea set. Yours might bankrupt 3 generations. Welcome to marriage as financial warfare. The Nakodo explains the arrangement like he's reading a grocery list. Your family provides the dowry, enough silk, gold, and household goods to outfit a small temple. His family provides the groom and the promise not to divorce you immediately. It's basically a really expensive subscription service, except the cancellation policy is written on 3.5 lines of paper. You catch your reflection in a bronze mirror. 16 years old and already dead behind the eyes. You look like someone trying to smile while being slowly digested by a particularly polite snake. The weight of expectation presses down like a wet futon stuffed with broken dreams. But here's what they don't tell you about arranged marriages in feudal Japan. The bride had roughly the same legal rights as a particularly valuable piece of furniture. You could be polished, displayed, and if you broke or displeased anyone, you could be easily replaced. The divorce process was so simple it made modern breakups look like peace negotiations. The matchmaker drones on about compatibility, not emotional. It's compatibility, obviously. That's as relevant as Wi-Fi passwords in 1650. He means astrological compatibility, financial compatibility, and whether your future children will inherit his strong jawline or your family's tendency toward early baldness. Love is mentioned exactly never. Your father nods at strategic intervals like a broken bobblehead. He's calculating rice yields and social climbing opportunities while you sit there wondering if this is how livestock feels at auction. The answer is probably yes, except cows don't have to worry about producing heirs or managing household budgets. The conversation turns to your education. You can embroider, play the koto poorly, and write poetry that makes grown men weep, mostly from boredom, but you can also read, which makes you either dangerously over-educated or barely qualified, depending on your future husband's insecurities. Feel the draft whisper through the paper screens. The marriage negotiations resemble a business merger between 2 moderately successful fish vendors. Both sides pretend to care about honour and family tradition while quietly calculating profit margins. Your value has been assessed like a rice harvest. Decent yield, good breeding potential, and unlikely to spontaneously combust. You realise you're about to become part of a transaction that would make Amazon's terms of service look straightforward. The marriage contract will be longer than your expected lifespan and twice as binding. Breaking it requires either death, divine intervention, or a very determined sprint to the nearest divorce temple. You'll see the dowry negotiations tonight, but first learn the price of saying no. 3 lines of ink can end a life faster than any sword. You sit in the flickering candlelight as your father spreads the dowry inventory across the tatami like a general planning war. Each item represents years of saving, scheming, and probably selling your younger brother's future education. The list reads like a medieval shopping spree gone horribly wrong. 12 bolts of silk, 40 pieces of gold, lacquerware that costs more than most people's houses, and enough kitchen implements to outfit a restaurant. Your mother counts and recounts the coins with the focus of someone performing surgery. Each koban represents another month of your family eating nothing but rice and regret. But this isn't generosity, it's investment. They're buying your entry into a higher social class, and you're the world's most expensive admission ticket. The silk alone could buy a small house. Instead, it'll become bedding for a man who's never met you, and probably couldn't pick you out of a lineup of 3 people. Your family is literally paying someone to take you off their hands, which feels about as flattering as it sounds. It's like reverse ransom, except the kidnappers get to keep you forever. Listen to the whisper of silk as your mother unfolds each bolt. Your future husband's family will inspect every item like customs agents with trust issues. One subpar teacup or slightly yellowed silk and the entire arrangement could collapse faster than a house of cards in a typhoon. The pressure is intense enough to make your ancestors sweat in their graves. But here's the truly brutal part. Even after bankrupting your family, there's no guarantee the marriage will stick. Your new husband could decide you chew too loudly, walk funny, or commit the cardinal sin of having opinions. Then he'd simply write you a Mikudarihan, a divorce letter so brief it makes Twitter character limits look generous. The divorce document reads like the world's most efficient breakup text. I divorce you for personal reasons. Go anywhere, marry anyone, have a nice life. The 3.5 lines of pure relationship destruction. It's simultaneously the most honest and most devastating form of communication ever invented. Your dowry won't come back with you either. Think of it as a non-refundable deposit on a marriage that might last anywhere from 3 decades to 3 weeks. Your family is essentially gambling everything on your ability to keep a stranger happy indefinitely. No pressure. The financial mathematics are breathtaking in their cruelty. A shogun's daughter might require a dowry worth 10,000 koku, enough rice to feed a small army for a year. Common families still had to provide proportionally devastating amounts. Everyone, from samurai to merchants, participated in this elaborate financial suicide pact disguised as wedding planning. Feel the weight of expectation settling around your shoulders like a lead blanket. Your father explains the dowry politics with the enthusiasm of someone describing a particularly interesting tax audit. Each item sends a message. Our daughter is valuable. We respect your family. Please don't divorce her immediately. It's diplomatic communication through material goods, and one wrong move could trigger a social crisis. The lacquerware gleams like trapped moonlight. Beautiful, fragile, and utterly impractical, much like your position in this whole arrangement. You're decorative, expensive, and expected to enhance your husband's household without causing any actual trouble. Break character, and you might find yourself replaced faster than last season's fashion trends. But some families took out loans to afford proper dowries. They mortgaged their futures on the hope that their daughters would marry well and maybe send money home later. It was like crowdfunding, except the only reward was avoiding social humiliation and potential bankruptcy. The negotiation continues past midnight, your parents and the Nakodo haggling over your worth like merchants at a particularly depressing market. Every reduction in the dowry feels like a small death. Every addition, like another year of poverty for your family. You're simultaneously too expensive and not valuable enough. Your future unfolds in silk and gold predetermined by people who've never asked what you want. The dowry represents your family's love, sacrifice, and complete inability to imagine any other path for your life. It's touching and terrible in equal measure. Sleep feels impossible with the weight of financial obligation pressing down like a particularly vindictive ghost. Tomorrow the dowry inspection begins, and with it your final transformation from daughter to commodity. Tomorrow you'll meet your future husband, but first discover what happens to wives who disappoint. In feudal Japan, divorce came with a receipt and zero explanation required. You wake to your mother burning incense like she's preparing for a funeral. In a way she is. Today marks your formal introduction to the man who holds your future in his calloused hands. But first, let her explain the fine print of your marriage contract. The part that reads like a warranty with the worst return policy in human history. The Mikudarihan system makes modern breakups look like elaborate diplomatic negotiations. Your husband doesn't need cause, justification, or even basic human decency. He just needs literacy and 3.5 lines of paper. I divorce you because I feel like it. Pack your thing, have a nice life. That's it. Marriage over. Please collect your belongings, an existential crisis at the door. Your mother's voice cracks as she explains the brutal mathematics of marital dissolution. The divorce rate in Edo, Japan was staggering, higher than most modern countries, not because people were happier or more fulfilled, but because ending a marriage required roughly the same paperwork as returning a defective kitchen utensil. Listen to the morning bells echoing across the district. Some husbands kept pre-written divorce letters in their sleeves like emergency fire axes. Break glass in case of minor annoyance. Your wife burns dinner? Mikudarihan. She disagrees with your mother? Mikudarihan. She breathes too loudly during sleep? Congratulations, you've just invented the world's first noise-based divorce precedent. The letter itself was standardized like a government form. Fill in the wife's name, add a vague reason, or skip it entirely, sign at the bottom. Some illiterate husbands couldn't even write their own divorce documents. They'd draw 3 lines and call it legally binding. Imagine getting dumped by stick figures. That's peak efficiency meets peak humiliation. But here's where the system reveals its true genius for cruelty. Divorced women could remarry freely. The law practically encouraged it. Why? Because keeping divorced women economically dependent would burden their families and society. Better to recycle them back into the marriage market like slightly used furniture with emotional baggage. Your family keeps the divorce documents from your older sister's first marriage in a wooden box like tragic souvenirs. 3 marriages, 2 Mikudarihan letters, and 1 suspicious death that was probably suicide but definitely counted as widowhood. She's currently on husband number 4, who seems nice enough but keeps glancing at the door like he's planning his escape route. Feel the weight of uncertainty pressing against your chest. The speed of feudal divorce was breathtaking. Modern couples spend months in counselling, mediation and legal proceedings. Edo period husbands could end marriages faster than most people cancel dinner reservations. The whole process took less time than a decent argument about household budgets. Some wives never saw it coming. They'd wake up to find divorce papers under their rice bowls like the world's worst fortune cookies. Your marriage is over. Lucky numbers 3, 4 and half. The psychological whiplash must have been spectacular. One day you're planning next month's meals, the next you're explaining to your parents why you're back home with your personal effects in a basket. The regional variations added their own special flavours of brutality. In some areas, husbands had to provide 30 days' notice. In others, immediate eviction was standard practice. It was like different warranty policies for human relationships, each one designed to maximise efficiency and minimise male inconvenience. Your mother shows you letters from divorced relatives scattered across the country. They write about their new lives with forced cheerfulness, like people describing vacation destinations they never wanted to visit. The weather is lovely. My new husband only hits me on Tuesdays. The children from my previous marriages send regards. But some women found unexpected freedom in divorce. Without husbands to control their movements or decisions, they could work, travel, and make choices. It was like accidental liberation through legal abandonment. They discovered independence by being unwanted, which is either beautifully ironic or devastatingly sad. The clock ticks toward your formal meeting, each minute bringing you closer to a man who could dissolve your marriage with less effort than ordering tea. Your future happiness depends entirely on the whims of someone you've never met, who views you as a potentially returnable purchase. This afternoon, you'll meet your future husband, but first, let's visit the temple where desperate wives buy their freedom with years of servitude. When marriage becomes unbearable, some women choose exile over endurance. The temple bells ring like freedom's funeral march across the morning mist. You're learning about Takeji Temple, the divorce sanctuary where desperate wives flee when 3.5 lines of abandonment feel inevitable. It's basically medieval witness protection, except instead of hiding from criminals, you're hiding from your own husband. Listen to the distant temple bells echoing through the valley. Your aunt whispers the escape route like she's planning a prison break. 2 years and 3 months of temple service buys you legal divorce, if you survive the spiritual boot camp designed to break your will. The nuns don't coddle refugees. They work you like borrowed oxen, pray you into submission, and feed you just enough rice to prevent actual death. The Edo-era system was brilliant in its calculated cruelty. Instead of making divorce easily accessible, Society created an obstacle course of suffering. Want out of your marriage? Great. First, abandon everything you know, live like a monk, and prove your desperation through extended misery. It's like modern divorce court, except with more chanting and fewer lawyers. Women arrived at temple gates carrying nothing but shame and determination. Some snuck out at dawn while husbands slept off sake hangovers. Others waited for market days when their movements wouldn't be tracked like escaped livestock. The lucky ones had family support. The unlucky ones walked barefoot through snow, carrying infants who might not survive the journey. But here's the twisted genius of the system. Not every woman who fled actually wanted divorce. Some used temple exile as marriage counselling through intimidation. Husbands faced with that public embarrassment and explaining to their families why their wives preferred nun food to home cooking sometimes reconsidered their behaviour. Spoiler, it rarely worked. Feel the weight of impossible choices pressing against your ribs. The temple acceptance process resembled job interviews conducted by people who'd sworn off earthly pleasures. Mother Superior would examine your desperation levels, assess your commitment to suffering, and determine whether your marriage problems warranted 2 years of spiritual imprisonment. Apparently not all marital misery qualified for sanctuary. There were standards. Some women discovered temple life suited them better than marriage. After years of serving demanding husbands, serving demanding deities felt like a lateral career move with better job security. They'd complete their divorce terms and immediately take vows, trading one form of a lifetime commitment for another with marginally better retirement benefits. The regional variations added special flavours of bureaucratic nightmare. Some temples required character witnesses, others demanded detailed written testimonies about marital abuse. A few insisted on probationary periods where women could change their minds and return home with their dignity only slightly demolished. It was like return policies for human relationships. Your mother shows you letters from women who chose the temple route. They write with the careful optimism of people describing voluntary imprisonment as spiritual growth. The rice is simple but nourishing. Mother Superior only beats us on Tuesdays. The mice in our cells are surprisingly good conversationalists. The children presented the cruelest dilemma. Fleeing wives could bring daughters but not sons over a certain age. Boys belonged to their father's lineage and couldn't be stolen away, even by desperate mothers. Women faced choosing between their own freedom and abandoning male children to potentially abusive fathers. It's the kind of choice that breaks souls into permanent pieces. But some husbands pursued their wives to temple gates like bounty hunters tracking escaped prisoners. They'd camp outside shouting promises of reform and threats of violence in equal measure. The nuns became medieval security guards, protecting refugees behind walls that were supposed to keep worldly corruption out, not violent husbands. The divorce papers issued by temples carried different weight than simple Mikudarihan letters. Temple-sanctioned divorces came with official seals, witness signatures, and the implicit threat that remarrying these women required careful consideration. They weren't just divorced, they were certified desperate enough to choose nuns over husbands. Listen to the wind carry distant prayers through the bamboo. The success rate was surprisingly high, considering the obstacles. Most women who completed their temple sentences successfully remarried within a year. The experience apparently made them either more attractive as proven survivors or more desperate for any alternative to religious life. Either way, the system recycled wives efficiently. Your future feels increasingly narrow as you learn about the escape routes available to desperate wives. Temple exile, Mikudarihan abandonment, or enduring decades of marriage to someone who might view you as slightly more valuable than livestock. The choices range from terrible to catastrophic, with no obviously good options. Tonight, you'll meet the man who holds all these possibilities in his hands, and you'll smile while calculating how many years of temple service his personality might eventually require. Tonight, you meet your future master. But first, let's explore what happens on a wedding night when performance anxiety meets political alliance. Your wedding isn't a celebration, it's a business merger disguised as romance. The negotiation room smells like incense, desperation, and the accumulated sweat of 3 generations planning your future without consulting you. Today, both families gather to finalize the transaction that will transform you from daughter to wife, from individual to investment property. The dowry list spreads across the tatami like evidence of your family's financial suicide. Listen to the soft rustle of silk being examined by calculating hands. Your father presents each item with the pride of a merchant displaying his finest wares. 12 bolts of silk so fine they whisper when touched. 40 pieces of gold that represent your family's entire savings, plus borrowed money they'll spend the next decade repaying. Lacquer ware that costs more than most people's houses. Kitchen implements so expensive they're basically heirloom torture devices for future daughters-in-law. The inspection process resembles a medieval quality control audit conducted by people with trust issues. Your future mother-in-law examines every thread, tests every clasp, and counts every grain of rice in the ceremonial offerings. One subpar teacup could trigger a renegotiation that makes international peace treaties look straightforward. But here's the beautiful irony. Your groom's family acts like they're doing yours a favour by accepting this fortune. They nod approvingly at the silk while mentally calculating how much they can resell for profit. They praise the gold while planning which debts it'll settle. Your dowry isn't just buying you a husband, it's funding his family's lifestyle improvements. The political calculations are breathtaking in their cynicism. Your marriage connects two merchant families, creating trade advantages worth more than the dowry itself. Your future children will cement business relationships that could last generations. You're not just getting married, you're becoming a human contract with reproductive obligations. Feel the weight of expectation settling like a lead kimono across your shoulders. Your future husband sits silently while parents negotiate his romantic future like commodity traders discussing rice futures. He's 19, barely literate, and has the emotional range of particularly stoic furniture. But he owns land, possesses functional reproductive equipment, and hasn't died of smallpox yet. In Edo-era Japan, that makes him husband material. The bride price versus dowry mathematics creates fascinating economic theatre. Technically, your family is paying his family to take you, but your value as breeding stock and household manager theoretically justifies the investment. It's circular logic that makes everyone poorer while maintaining the illusion of female worth. Some families went into debt for decades to provide adequate dowries. They mortgaged their futures on daughters' marriage prospects, gambling that successful matches would generate long-term financial benefits. When marriages failed through divorce or early widowhood, these investments became pure loss with emotional devastation as interest. The paperwork involved makes modern prenuptials look like grocery lists. Marriage contracts specified everything from household management responsibilities to child custody arrangements for offspring who didn't exist yet. Your future rights and obligations were documented with the thoroughness of military surrender terms. Your groom's family treats this like Christmas morning funded by someone else's bankruptcy. They're acquiring a housekeeper, nursemaid, and business asset, while your family celebrates the privilege of paying for the transaction. The mathematical brutality is stunning. You cost more than you'll ever be worth, and everyone knows it. Regional competition drove dowry inflation like a medieval arms races. Wealthy families set standards that bankrupted middle-class households trying to marry daughters appropriately. Poor families either accepted lower status matches or remained unmarried, creating social pressure that destroyed multiple generations. Listen to coins being counted like funeral bells in the distance. The gift exchange ceremony transforms economic transaction into cultural theatre. Both families present offerings with ceremonial gravity, pretending spiritual significance while calculating profit margins. Your worth has been negotiated, documented, and sanctified by people who have never asked what you want from life. Tomorrow brings the wedding ceremony, where you'll officially become property transferred between families with appropriate paperwork. Tonight represents your last hours as an individual human being rather than a walking investment portfolio with reproductive potential. The ceremony awaits. But first, discover what wedding nights taught about performance politics and the price of disappointing powerful families. Your wedding night comes with an audience, 3 families, the ancestors, and enormous political pressure. The bridal chamber feels like a stage set for the world's most intimate business meeting. Red silk drapes everything in the colour of good fortune and fresh blood. Candles flicker like nervous witnesses while you sit in ceremonial robes that weigh approximately as much as a small horse. Tonight, you're not just consummating a marriage. You're ratifying a political alliance with your reproductive organs. Listen to the soft whisper of silk against silk as you shift nervously. Your new mother-in-law provided detailed instructions about wedding night expectations with the clinical precision of a military briefing. Lie still, look grateful, produce evidence of virginity for morning inspection. And most importantly, conceive male heirs immediately, because everyone's investment depends on your uterus performing like a well-oiled baby factory. The pressure is extraordinary. 3 families have invested fortunes in this moment. Your father borrowed money against next year's harvest. Your husband's clan planned business expansions based on your dowry. If this marriage produces weak sons, early deaths, or worst of all, only daughters, the financial and social consequences could destroy multiple generations. Your husband enters like someone attending his own execution, dutiful but terrified. He's 19, barely experienced with women, and carrying the weight of family expectations that could crush oxen. Neither of you knows what you're doing, but failure isn't an option because too many people have invested too much money in your success. The virginity verification process makes modern medical exams look like casual conversations. Tomorrow morning, the bedsheets will be examined by elderly women with the forensic expertise of crime scene investigators. Blood stains must be appropriately sized and positioned. Too little suggests deception. Too much implies violence. Getting the evidence exactly right requires skills they don't teach anybody. Feel the weight of silk robes dragging against tatami mats like expensive chains. But here's the truly brutal part. Your wedding night performance establishes the entire tone of your marriage. Appear too eager and you're immoral. Seem reluctant and you're ungrateful. Express pain and you're weak. Show pleasure and you're shameless. Navigate perfectly between these contradictions while maintaining the political alliance everyone's counting on. Some brides received advice from married relatives that read like survival guides for navigating masculine fragility. Keep your husband's ego intact. Fake appropriate responses, never compare his performance to anything you've heard about. And definitely don't mention that you're terrified, in pain, or wondering if this constitutes your entire romantic future. The conception pressure begins immediately. Periods are monitored by multiple generations of women with vested interests in your fertility. Late menstruation triggers celebrations. Regular cycles prompt concerned consultations with doctors who prescribe treatments ranging from herbal remedies to dietary modifications that taste like punishment. Your husband faces his own performance anxiety nightmare. Male virility reflects family honor, business acumen, and general worthiness as a human being. Failed erections become family crises requiring consultations with physicians, priests, and possibly ancestors through elaborate spiritual interventions. The political stakes elevate everything beyond normal relationship stress. Your marriage isn't just personal, it's diplomatic. Bad sexual chemistry could destabilize business partnerships. Infertility might trigger divorce proceedings that bankrupt multiple families. Even minor compatibility issues become major political incidents. Spoiler alert, most couples discover that arranged marriages based on financial calculations don't automatically generate passionate romance. Shocking, right? The disconnect between economic necessity and emotional fulfillment creates lifelong tensions that make modern relationship problems look like minor inconveniences. Listen to the distant sound of families waiting for evidence of successful consummation. Some women developed strategies for managing wedding night trauma that resembled military survival techniques. Disassociate mentally, focus on financial security. Remember that this establishes your place in the social hierarchy. Think about future children who might love you even if your husband never will. The morning after politics involve careful management of family expectations, social appearances, and personal dignity. Everyone wants confirmation that their investment paid off. You provide appropriate evidence, express suitable gratitude, and begin the decades-long performance of marital contentment. Tomorrow, you'll wake up as someone's wife instead of someone's daughter. But first, let's explore what happens when wedding night disappointments become family scandals. Dawn brings inspection, investigation, and the beginning of a lifetime performance. You wake to whispered consultations outside your bridal chamber like medical conferences discussing a patient who might not survive. The blood-stained sheets have been collected for analysis by elderly women whose expertise in virginity verification rivals modern forensic scientists. Your wedding night is over, but the political consequences are just beginning. Listen to the soft murmur of voices analysing your most intimate moments. Your new mother-in-law enters with the solemnity of a judge delivering a verdict. The evidence is satisfactory, enough blood to confirm virginity, not so much as to suggest violence. Your husband performed adequately. The political alliance is intact. Congratulations, you've successfully transformed from daughter to wife without causing a diplomatic incident. But here's where the real performance begins. Marriage in feudal Japan isn't a relationship, it's a decades-long theatrical production where you play the role of grateful wife while managing everyone's expectations about your fertility, domesticity, and complete subservience to family interests. The post-wedding analysis involves more people than most modern board meetings. Your husband's parents evaluate your behaviour for signs of proper submission. Your own family seeks confirmation that their investment was worthwhile. Extended relatives monitor your adjustment to married life, like critics reviewing a particularly expensive drama. The pregnancy countdown starts immediately. Within days of your wedding, elderly women begin calculating your menstrual cycle with the precision of accountants tracking quarterly profits. Late periods trigger excited whispers. Regular cycles prompt concerned discussions about fertility treatments that range from herbal remedies to dietary modifications that taste like medieval punishment. Feel the weight of countless eyes monitoring your every movement. Your new household operates like a business where you're simultaneously employee, investment, and potential liability. You manage domestic affairs, supervise servants, and maintain social relationships while your reproductive status determines your value as a family member. It's like performance-based employment where pregnancy bonuses are literally life-changing. The social integration process resembles joining a corporation with particularly demanding workplace culture. You learn family hierarchies, master political dynamics, and navigate personality conflicts while maintaining the cheerful demeanour of someone grateful for the opportunity to serve. Expressing dissatisfaction isn't just rude, it's potentially economically catastrophic. Some new wives discovered that marriage was less partnership and more extended job interview. Every domestic decision reflected your competence. Each social interaction demonstrated your family loyalty. Your husband's satisfaction with the arrangement determined whether you'd be retained or returned like defective merchandise. The letter-writing campaign begins within weeks. Your family expects regular updates confirming marital happiness. Your husband's relatives monitor correspondence for signs of homesickness or regret. Every written word becomes evidence of successful family integration or grounds for concern about your long-term reliability. The performance never ends. Years later, you'll still be proving your worthiness through domestic competence, social grace, and reproductive success. Marriage isn't something you achieve, it's something you continuously earn through flawless execution of increasingly demanding expectations. Listen to the household awakening around your new role as permanent resident performer. Regional variations added their own special challenges. Some areas expected new wives to demonstrate specific skills within weeks of marriage. Others demanded public displays of family loyalty through elaborate gift-giving or social hosting. The requirements were standardized nowhere and negotiable never. Your husband, meanwhile, faces his own post-wedding pressures. His treatment of you reflects his family's values and his personal competence as a patriarch. Too harsh and he's cruel, too lenient and he's weak. Managing your happiness while maintaining authority requires diplomatic skills most 19-year-old men definitely don't possess. The success metrics are brutal in their clarity. Happy wife, stable household, regular pregnancies, and profitable family alliances. Failure in any category triggers interventions ranging from helpful advice to marriage dissolution proceedings that could financially destroy everyone involved. 6 months from now, you'll know whether this arrangement works. But first, let's discover what daily married life teaches about servitude, survival, and the strange mathematics of feudal happiness. Marriage means you've traded one family's expectations for another's, except now they own you. The morning gong echoes through the household at 4 a.m. like a death sentence with rhythm. You're no longer someone's daughter with limited responsibilities. You're someone's wife with unlimited obligations that extend from sunrise to whenever everyone else decides to sleep. Welcome to married life, where your personal time died along with your maiden name. Listen to the soft shuffle of servants beginning their daily routines. Your new daily schedule makes military boot camp look like vacation planning. Rise before dawn. Prepare the family's morning meal while the kitchen staff judges your every knife cut. Oversee household cleaning that must meet standards set by a mother-in-law whose relationship with perfection borders on religious devotion. Manage servant schedules while maintaining the diplomatic skills of a career ambassador. The domestic politics are breathtaking in their complexity. Your husband's mother retains final authority over all household decisions while expecting you to manage daily operations flawlessly. It's like being promoted to management while your former boss monitors your every move and criticizes your performance publicly during family meals. Here's the beautiful catch-22. You're responsible for everything but in charge of nothing. The meals must be perfect, but you can't change the menu. The servants must be productive, but you can't modify their duties. The household must run smoothly, but any problems are automatically your fault regardless of their actual causes. Your mother-in-law's inspection tours resemble military reviews conducted by someone personally offended by dust particles. She examines floor mats for proper alignment, tests soup temperatures with the precision of a scientist, and evaluates your servant management skills through interrogations that make confession booths look casual. Feel the weight of scrutiny pressing against your shoulders like invisible hands. The kitchen becomes your primary battlefield. Meal preparation requires coordinating multiple cooking fires, managing ingredient ratios that feed anywhere from 8 to 20 people depending on guests, and ensuring that every dish meets taste standards established by generations of women who view cooking as a competitive sport. Breakfast alone involves preparing rice that's neither too sticky nor too dry, miso soup with perfectly balanced flavouring, pickled vegetables cut to uniform sizes, and tea served at precisely the right temperature. One overcooked grain or under-seasoned broth triggers helpful suggestions delivered with the warmth of winter wind. The cleaning standards border on obsessive-compulsive disorder elevated to family tradition. Floor mats must be swept, aired, and repositioned daily. Wooden surfaces require specific cleaning solutions applied in particular directions. Even the arrangement of household items follows rules so detailed they require written documentation. Your husband, meanwhile, contributes to household management by existing and offering opinions. He works during the day, returns home expecting meals prepared to his preferences, and judges your domestic competence while contributing roughly nothing to daily operations except criticism and reproductive demands. Servant management creates its own special nightmare. You're expected to maintain authority over people who've worked for the family longer than you've been alive. They know every family secret, understand household routines better than you do, and possess the political skills necessary to undermine your authority without appearing overtly disrespectful. Listen to the rhythmic sound of rice being washed for the morning meal. Some servants actively tested new wives through minor acts of rebellion disguised as misunderstandings. They'd prepare meals slightly differently than requested, clean rooms according to the previous wife's preferences, or seek confirmation of your orders from your mother-in-law. It's workplace politics with lifelong consequences. The social obligations begin immediately after domestic duties conclude around noon. You're expected to maintain relationships with neighbourhood wives, participate in family religious observances, and represent your husband's household at community gatherings while somehow finding time for personal hygiene and basic human functions. The exhaustion is profound and permanent. You collapse into bed each night having managed a household, satisfied multiple generations of critics, and maintained the cheerful demeanour of someone grateful for the opportunity to serve everyone else's needs while ignoring your own completely. Today's afternoon brings social obligations, but first let's explore what happens when your mother-in-law decides you need improvement. Your husband's mother isn't just family. She's your supervisor, critic and lifetime probation officer. The afternoon social hour arrives like a diplomatic summit where you're simultaneously ambassador and hostage. Your mother-in-law presides over tea service with the authority of someone who spent decades perfecting the art of polite domination. Every gesture you make, every word you speak, and every breath you take gets evaluated for proper wifely deportment. Listen to the precise clink of porcelain as teacups meet saucers in perfect rhythm. Today's lesson involves proper flower arrangement, which sounds peaceful until you realise it's actually advanced psychological warfare disguised as domestic arts. Your mother-in-law demonstrates the correct angle for each stem while explaining how flower positioning reflects moral character, family values, and your general worthiness as a human being. The Ikebana philosophy apparently extends to everything you do. Chrysanthemums placed incorrectly suggest impurity of thought. Asymmetrical arrangements indicate moral confusion. Using too many blossoms implies greed, while too few suggests stinginess. Congratulations, you're being judged by vegetation. But flower arranging is merely the opening act for today's real entertainment, neighbourhood wife politics. The local ladies arrive for their weekly gathering with smiles sharp enough to slice silk and conversational skills that make diplomatic negotiations look straightforward. You're the newest member of this social battlefield disguised as tea party. Feel the weight of calculating stares measuring your every movement. The conversation topics range from seemingly innocent household management to barely concealed intelligence gathering about family finances, marriage satisfaction, and reproductive progress. Mrs. Tanaka asks about your domestic routines, with the casual interest of someone conducting surveillance. Mrs. Sato inquires about your husband's business prospects while mentally calculating your family's social climbing trajectory. Here's the brutal truth about married women's social circles. There are support groups and competitive arenas simultaneously. Everyone offers advice while secretly hoping your problems are worse than theirs. They express sympathy for your challenges, while gathering information that could be weaponized later during community gossip sessions. Your mother-in-law manages these interactions like a chess grandmaster moving pieces across a board where one wrong move could devastate your family's reputation. She guides conversations, redirects inappropriate questions, and demonstrates your proper training through subtle displays of your submission to her authority. The gift exchange rituals create their own economic pressures. Each gathering involves presenting appropriate offerings that must be valuable enough to show respect, but not so expensive as to appear competitive or wasteful. Getting the mathematics wrong triggers months of social consequences. Some women use these gatherings to build alliances against difficult husbands or mothers-in-law. Others collect information about family troubles that might provide opportunities for their own social advancement. A few genuinely seek friendship, but most treat these events like business networking with better snacks. Listen to the soft rustle of silk as women shift positions during particularly tense conversational moments. The performance never stops. You must appear happy without seeming smug, competent without appearing competitive, and grateful without looking desperate. Your facial expressions get analysed for signs of marital discord. Your clothing choices reflect your family's financial status and your personal priorities. The afternoon concludes with your mother-in-law's performance review delivered with the warmth of a tax audit. Your flower arrangement showed improvement but lacked spiritual depth. Your conversational contributions were adequate but could demonstrate more deference. Your posture suggested confidence, which might be interpreted as pride. Work on appearing more humble. The social obligations continue through evening meal preparation, where you'll implement today's lessons while managing dinner for a household that includes your husband's parents, unmarried siblings, visiting relatives, and whoever else decided to stay for food and entertainment at your expense. Tonight brings family dinner politics, but first discover what happens when your husband decides you need correction. Dinner time isn't a meal, it's a performance review conducted by people who can legally return you to your parents. The evening meal preparation begins at 3 p.m. because feeding a household of 12 requires the organisational skills of a military quartermaster and the diplomatic finesse of a peace treaty negotiator. You coordinate multiple cooking fires, manage ingredient ratios, and ensure every dish meets standards established by people whose relationship with criticism borders on artistic passion. Listen to the rhythmic chopping of vegetables echoing through the kitchen like a countdown to judgment. Your husband returns from his day of conducting business while you conducted domestic warfare on multiple fronts. He expects dinner served at the precise moment of his arrival, prepared to his exact preferences, while the rest of the family simultaneously receives their preferred dishes without any visible signs of the chaos required to achieve this miracle. The seating arrangement alone requires advanced knowledge of family hierarchy, recent political developments, and who's feuding with whom this week. Uncle Kenji can't sit near your husband's younger brother due to a rice field boundary dispute. Your mother-in-law must maintain visual supervision over your serving techniques. Everyone else arranges themselves according to social rank and current favour status. Here's where the evening gets interesting. Dinner conversation becomes your final examination of the day. Your husband's father asks about household management decisions while your mother-in-law monitors your responses for proper deference. Extended family members contribute observations about your domestic competence based on meal quality and service efficiency. Your husband, meanwhile, offers commentary on your performance with the casual authority of someone reviewing livestock at market. The rice is slightly overcooked. Perhaps you need additional kitchen training. The soup lacks depth. Maybe your seasoning skills require improvement. Everything becomes evidence of your general adequacy or failure as a wife. Feel the weight of multiple generations evaluating your every gesture. The children present their own challenges. Your husband's younger siblings expect entertainment, education, and emotional support while you manage meal service and navigate adult politics. There are simultaneously your responsibility and your judges, reporting your interactions to parents who view your child-rearing skills as preview of maternal competence. But tonight's real drama involves your husband's announcement of a business trip that will leave you alone with his family for 2 weeks. This isn't vacation time. It's intensive wife training conducted by people with unlimited authority over your daily existence and strong opinions about everything you do wrong. The departure preparations reveal the true nature of your marriage. You're not losing a companion for 2 weeks. You're losing your only ally in a household where everyone else has lived together for decades and views you as the newest member requiring constant supervision and improvement. The mathematical brutality of your situation becomes crystal clear during goodbyes. Your husband can leave whenever business requires. Your permanent property that comes with lifetime warranty obligations. His freedom is absolute. Yours is theoretical and depends entirely on maintaining everyone else's satisfaction. Listen to the soft sounds of evening cleanup beginning around your continued performance. The evening evaluation concludes with your mother-in-law's daily assessment delivered with scientific precision. Your meal preparation showed improvement, but timing needs work. Your conversation contributions were appropriate but could demonstrate more enthusiasm. Your interaction with the children was adequate but lacked the warmth expected from potential mothers. Sleep comes finally, but it's not rest. It's preparation for tomorrow's identical performance with minor variations based on tonight's critiques. You've completed 1 day of married life with approximately 18,000 more ahead of you. Assuming you live to average life expectancy and don't die from exhaustion first, tomorrow your husband leaves and the real training begins. But first, let's explore what happens when wives disappoint powerful families. In feudal Japan, divorce papers were shorter than modern grocery lists and twice as devastating. The morning arrives with your husband packing for his business trip while you pretend this isn't the beginning of 2 weeks in domestic purgatory supervised by people who view your continued residence as provisional. But before he leaves, let him explain the fine print of your marriage contract. Specifically, the exit clause that makes modern prenups look like love poems. Listen to the soft rustle of paper as documents are arranged on the low table. The Mikudarihan sits in the family document box like a loaded weapon with a hair trigger. 3.5 lines of text that can end your marriage faster than most people can order lunch. I divorce you for reasons. Go anywhere, marry someone else, have a pleasant life. That's literally the entire legal framework for marital dissolution in Edo, Japan. Your husband demonstrates the process with the casual efficiency of someone explaining how to operate a particularly simple kitchen tool. Take a brush, apply ink, write wife's name, add a generic reason or skip it entirely, and sign at the bottom. Total time investment, roughly 3 minutes, including drying time for the ink. Here's the beautiful efficiency of the system. No courts, no mediation, no counselling, no lawyers. Just a man with basic literacy skills and access to writing materials, making unilateral decisions about another person's entire future. It's democracy in action, except only one person gets to vote. The standardized language makes divorce feel like completing government paperwork. Most Mikudarihan letters used identical phrasing because creativity wasn't required, just notification. Some illiterate husbands drew 3 lines and called it legally binding. Getting dumped by stick figures represents peak efficiency meeting peak humiliation. Feel the weight of absolute powerlessness settling like lead blankets across your shoulders. Regional variations added their own special touches to the divorce process. Some areas required 30 days' notice, giving wives time to pack belongings and arrange alternative housing. Others permitted immediate eviction because inconveniencing husbands with transition periods seemed unreasonable. It was like different warranty policies for human relationships. The reasons listed on divorce papers ranged from specific complaints to philosophical observations about incompatibility. Talks too much during meals. Disagrees with my mother. Breathes loudly while sleeping. Some men cited general disappointment, which covers roughly everything while specifying nothing. But here's where the system reveals its true genius for cruelty. Divorced women could remarry immediately and frequently. The law practically encouraged recycling wives back into the marriage market because supporting divorced women economically would burden families and society. Better to treat them like slightly used furniture with emotional baggage. Your husband's family keeps divorce documents from previous generations in a wooden box like tragic souvenirs. 3 marriages, 2 Mikudarihan letters, and 1 suspicious death that counted as widowhood. Family history reads like a casualty report from relationship warfare conducted with legal paperwork. Listen to the distant sound of your husband's preparations for departure. The speed of feudal divorce was breathtaking. Modern couples spend months in counselling, mediation, and legal proceedings. Edo period husbands could end marriages faster than most people cancel dinner reservations. The entire process took less time than a decent argument about household budgets. Some wives never saw it coming. They'd wake up to find divorce papers under their rice bowls like the world's worst fortune cookies. Your marriage is over. Lucky numbers 3, 4, and 1/2. The psychological whiplash must have been spectacular. One morning planning next week's meals, the next explaining to parents why you're homeless. The truly brutal mathematics, divorce was often economically advantageous for husbands. They kept the dowry, gained freedom to remarry, and eliminated ongoing support obligations. For wives, divorce meant returning to families who'd already spent their resources on your failed marriage investment. This afternoon, your husband departs for 2 weeks of business. But first, let's explore what happens when mothers-in-law conduct intensive wife improvement programs. With your husband gone, your real education begins under the watchful eye of a woman who's been perfecting criticism for decades. The door slides shut behind your departing husband with the finality of a prison gate locking. Your mother-in-law's smile could freeze sake in summer as she turns her complete attention to your intensive improvement program. For the next 2 weeks, you're her full-time project and she's always been an overachiever. Listen to the silence that follows your husband's departure, heavy with anticipation. Day 1 begins at 3:30 a.m. because apparently your previous 4 a.m. wake-up schedule demonstrated insufficient dedication to household excellence. Your mother-in-law explains the new routine with the enthusiasm of a drill sergeant who's discovered a particularly challenging recruit. Sleep is for women who've already achieved domestic perfection. The morning cleaning inspection resembles a military review conducted by someone personally offended by dust particles. She examines tatami mats with magnifying precision, tests surface cleanliness with white cloth that reveals microscopic failures, and documents your shortcomings in a notebook that's apparently been recording daughter-in-law deficiencies for decades. Here's the beautiful catch. Every task has been redesigned to be impossible to complete perfectly. The floor mats must be swept in specific patterns that change daily. Rice preparation requires achieving consistency levels that defy physics. Flower arrangements need to express emotions you're not allowed to feel. Feel the weight of constant supervision pressing against your every movement. Your cooking lessons involve preparing the same dish repeatedly until it meets standards that exist only in your mother-in-law's mind. Today's challenge: miso soup that's neither too salty nor too bland, neither too hot nor too cool, neither too thick nor too thin. It's like Goldilocks, except the bears have legal authority over your housing situation. The afternoon sewing sessions combine skill development with psychological warfare. You're embroidering patterns that must demonstrate moral character, family loyalty, and artistic competence, while your mother-in-law provides commentary on your technique, your attitude, and your general worthiness as a human being. But here's the truly artistic cruelty. She's training you to replace her. Every criticism comes with the subtext that you'll eventually become the household's senior woman, responsible for training your own daughters-in-law with the same ruthless efficiency. It's an endless cycle of domestic domination disguised as family tradition. The evening evaluation sessions involve detailed analysis of your daily performance with suggestions for improvement that sound like helpful advice, but feel like character assassination. Your rice showed improvement but lacked spiritual depth. Your cleaning technique was thorough but demonstrated insufficient reverence for family. Possessions. Listen to the scratch of brush on paper as your daily performance gets documented. Some mothers-in-law used wife training as their primary entertainment. After decades of managing households and raising children, Breaking in new daughters-in-law provided intellectual stimulation and creative outlet. It was like having a live-in student who couldn't quit, transfer or complain to higher authorities. The sleep deprivation is clearly intentional. Exhausted wives make fewer mistakes because they lack energy for independent thinking. You stumble through days in a haze of fatigue, responding to instructions with the compliance of someone too tired to remember what personal preferences felt like. Week 2 escalates the difficulty by adding advanced childhood. You're now responsible for entertaining guests while maintaining the regular household duties, managing servant schedules while learning new cooking techniques, and demonstrating improvement in areas where improvement might be theoretically impossible. The notebook of your deficiencies grows daily like evidence for a trial where you're simultaneously defendant and evidence. Your mother-in-law reviews previous day's notes while planning tomorrow's lessons in domestic excellence that feel increasingly like punishment disguised as education. Your husband returns tomorrow, but the training never ends. But first, discover what happens when improvement fails to meet expectations. Your husband comes home to a wife who's been pressure tested for 2 weeks, and the results determine your future. The morning of his return, you wake at 3 a.m. without being told because your body has internalized the new schedule of exhaustion. Your mother-in-law conducts final preparations with the intensity of someone staging a performance where poor reviews could trigger immediate contract termination. Today, you demonstrate 2 weeks of intensive improvement or face consequences that make medieval punishment look merciful. Listen to the careful arrangement of household items for maximum visual impact. The homecoming feast preparation begins at dawn because nothing says welcome back, like a meal that required 12 hours of coordination, 3 nervous breakdowns, and the combined efforts of every woman in the household working at maximum efficiency. Your mother-in-law supervises with clipboard-level attention to detail. Every dish must be perfect. The rice, individual grains distinct but cohesive, neither too sticky nor too dry, served at precisely the right temperature. The soup, clear broth that reflects family purity, seasoned to preferences you've memorized through repetition and fear. The vegetables, cut to uniform sizes that demonstrate patience, precision, and moral character. But here's the truly brutal aspect. Your husband doesn't just evaluate the meal, he evaluates you, your posture while serving, your facial expressions during conversation, your responses to his questions about the past 2 weeks. Everything becomes evidence of successful wife training, or grounds for reconsidering this entire arrangement. Feel the weight of 2 weeks' intensive preparation culminating in this single performance. Your mother-in-law provides real-time coaching through subtle signals that resemble a diplomatic code developed for high-stakes negotiations. A slight nod means continue current behaviour. A raised eyebrow suggests immediate course correction. A particular smile indicates you're approaching dangerous territory and should retreat to safer conversational ground. The post-meal evaluation happens in your presence, but about you, like a medical consultation discussing a patient who might not survive. Your husband's father comments on household improvements. His mother details your training progress. Extended family members contribute observations about your transformation from problematic daughter-in-law to potentially acceptable wife. Your husband listens with the attention of someone reviewing a warranty repair. Has the product been adequately fixed? Do the improvements justify continued investment? Are there remaining defects that require additional attention or complete replacement? You sit silently while your worth gets calculated by people whose opinions determine your housing situation. The afternoon brings a private consultation between your husband and his mother about your future prospects. Their conversation happens behind closed doors, but the results will determine whether you continue this marriage or begin preparing for divorce proceedings that could leave you homeless and unmarriageable. Listen to the muffled sound of voices determining your fate in the next room. Some wives discovered that intensive training periods were actually probationary evaluations disguised as improvement programs. Families used husbands' absences to test daughters-in-law under maximum stress, identifying fatal flaws before they cause permanent embarrassment or financial loss. The verdict arrives during evening tea service with ceremonial gravity. Your performance showed marked improvement. Your attitude demonstrated proper submission. Your cooking skills reached acceptable levels. Congratulations, you've passed the examination and earned the right to continue being married to someone who might not love you. But the training never truly ends. You've simply graduated from intensive improvement to ongoing maintenance. Every day brings new opportunities to demonstrate continued worthiness through domestic competence, social grace, and reproductive success. Tonight you celebrate temporary survival. But first, let's explore what happens when wives produce the wrong kind of children. Your uterus isn't yours anymore. It belongs to 3 families, 2 ancestors, and economic pressures that could bankrupt generations. The morning sickness hits like divine punishment for crimes you haven't committed yet. You're 3 months pregnant, which means you're either carrying the family's salvation or their financial ruin, depending entirely on whether this child emerges with the correct reproductive equipment. Welcome to feudal Japan's most brutal lottery, where losing means decades of shame and winning means doing it again immediately. Listen to the soft sounds of morning prayers for male offspring echoing through the house. Your mother-in-law monitors your pregnancy with the intensity of someone conducting scientific research on behalf of national security. Every symptom gets analysed for signs of gender. High belly means boy. Craving salt indicates male heir. Morning sickness intensity correlates with child's future strength. It's medieval ultrasound conducted through wishful thinking and folk wisdom that's wrong approximately half the time. The dietary restrictions transform eating into a complex negotiation between traditional beliefs and practical nutrition. No cold foods because they might damage the baby's yang energy. No spicy dishes because they could cause premature labour. No fish on odd-numbered days because it might affect the child's temperament. You're basically surviving on rice and hope. Here's the beautiful pressure. Everyone's financial future depends on your reproductive success. Your husband's business expansion requires male heirs to inherit land rights. Your family's social climbing depends on producing grandsons who will elevate their status. Even the servants have invested interests because stable households mean secure employment. The pregnancy monitoring involves more people than most modern medical teams. Your mother checks for signs of complications. Your mother-in-law evaluates your behaviour for activities that might harm the baby. Neighbourhood wives offer advice based on their own reproductive experiences and supernatural beliefs that range from helpful to completely insane. Feel the weight of countless expectations pressing against your expanding belly. Regional variations in pregnancy superstitions create additional layers of anxiety. Some areas prohibit lifting objects above your head because it might tangle the umbilical cord. Others require specific sleeping positions that supposedly influence the baby's personality. A few mandate complete silence during certain lunar phases because noise could damage developing ears. The gender speculation begins immediately and continues with the relentlessness of political campaigning. Extended family members examine your belly shape, monitor your food preferences, and analyse your dreams for supernatural indicators of male offspring. Every bodily function becomes subject to interpretation by people whose expertise comes from decades of hoping previous predictions were correct. But here's the truly brutal mathematics. Daughters are expensive disappointments while sons are profitable investments. Boys inherit property, carry family names, and provide old age support for parents. Girls require dowries, leave to serve other families, and offer roughly the same economic return as particularly expensive furniture. Listen to the rhythmic sound of prayers being chanted for successful delivery of male heirs. Some families consulted fortune tellers who specialised in predicting offspring gender through methods that made astrology look scientifically rigorous. They'd examine the mother's palm lines, calculate conception dates according to lunar calendars, and provide predictions that carried the authority of religious doctrine despite being statistically worthless. The preparation for childbirth involves accumulating supplies for celebrations or consolations depending on the outcome. Gifts for announcing sons, apologetic offerings for disappointing everyone with daughters, food for feeding relatives who will either congratulate your success or commiserate with your failure to provide adequate return on their investment. The delivery approaches like final examination day, in a course where failing means repeating the curriculum indefinitely. You've spent 9 months in intensive training for a test that lasts hours but determines the next 20 years of your social status, economic security, and family relationships. Tomorrow brings labour and judgment. But first, let's explore what happens when wives deliver the wrong gender. The midwife's announcement determines whether you're a success story or an expensive failure, and there's no participation trophy for effort. The labour begins at midnight because apparently your child has inherited the family's impeccable sense of timing. Pain arrives in waves that feel like someone's repeatedly kicking your spine from the inside while your mother-in-law times contractions with the precision of someone conducting orchestra rehearsals. This isn't just childbirth. It's performance art where the reviews determine your future housing situation. Listen to the soft murmur of women preparing for delivery while praying for miraculous intervention. The birthing room fills with every female relative within walking distance, each contributing folk wisdom that contradicts everyone else's advice. Push harder, but don't strain. Breathe deeply, but stay quiet. Relax completely while enduring pain that makes battlefield injuries look comfortable. It's like receiving driving instructions from 12 people who've never operated vehicles. Your mother-in-law positions herself for optimal viewing of the main event, ready to confirm gender the moment your child emerges. She's invested 9 months of hopes, prayers, and probably some money on fortune tellers predicting male offspring. The pressure in the room could crush diamonds, but here's where feudal Japan's reproductive mathematics become brutally clear. This delivery determines your value as a family member for the next decade. Sons elevate your status to successful wife and competent mother. Daughters confirm your role as an expensive disappointment who requires additional chances to prove reproductive worth. Feel the weight of generational expectations pressing down like atmospheric pressure during supernatural storms. The final push arrives with the intensity of someone forcing a particularly stubborn door open during the earthquake conditions. Pain explodes through your body while extended family holds collective breath, waiting for the announcement that will trigger either celebration or polite disappointment disguised as encouragement. The midwife lifts your newborn with ceremonial gravity, examines the relevant anatomy, and delivers the verdict that makes or breaks your immediate future. It's a girl. The silence that follows could stop time. Someone's dreams just died, and they're all looking at you like you personally murdered their economic prospects. Congratulations, you've just produced a beautiful, healthy daughter who represents complete reproductive failure according to everyone whose opinion matters. Your mother-in-law's smile could freeze rice wine. Your husband's father nods with the enthusiasm of someone acknowledging tragic news. The celebration that was planned becomes a consolation gathering that feels like a wake. Listen to the awkward murmur of relatives recalibrating their expectations downward. The gift presentations become exercises in diplomatic damage. It's control. People produce consolation offerings instead of celebration presents. The conversations focus on next time and better luck, and maybe the second child will be different. You've essentially failed your final exam in front of everyone who invested in your success. But here's the twisted silver lining. Daughters aren't completely worthless. They can be married off eventually, creating new family alliances and generating dowry income for future daughter-in-law purchases. Your reproductive failure becomes someone else's potential wife, completing the circle of medieval women trading hands like particularly expensive livestock. The recovery period involves managing physical healing while navigating social disappointment from people who view your daughter's gender as a personal failing rather than a biological probability. You rest while everyone discusses your next pregnancy timeline with the urgency of investors planning stock purchases. Your mother-in-law begins calculating optimal timing for the next conception while you're still bleeding from this delivery. Recovery time must be balanced against your advancing age and declining fertility. There's no she for women whose primary value lies in reproductive success. Feel the exhaustion of producing life while simultaneously disappointing everyone who witnessed it. The long-term consequences unfold over weeks. Your daughter becomes evidence of your reproductive inadequacy. Future pregnancies carry increased pressure to correct this initial failure. Your status in the household reflects your inability to provide the male heir everyone expected. But some women discovered unexpected benefits in producing daughters first. Girls couldn't inherit property, which meant less pressure on subsequent children. Daughters often developed closer relationships with mothers than sons, who belonged primarily to their father's lineage and ambitions. 6 months from now, you'll try again, but first let's discover what happens when multiple pregnancies produce multiple disappointments. Welcome to your new career, professional baby manufacturer with performance-based employment where success means doing it again immediately. 2 years, 3 pregnancies, and still no male heir. You're becoming the household's expensive reproductive experiments, burning through resources, while producing beautiful daughters who represent economic liabilities rather than family assets. Your mother-in-law's patience is wearing thinner than rice paper in rain. Listen to the soft whispers of family consultations about your continued reproductive viability. The pressure intensifies with each failed pregnancy. First daughter, disappointment but understandable. Second daughter, concerning pattern requiring intervention. Third daughter, potential grounds for divorce proceedings. Unless a miraculous fourth pregnancy produces the male heir everyone's been praying for since your wedding night. Your body has become a battlefield where various family members deploy their reproductive strategies. Your mother sends herbal remedies that supposedly influence baby gender. Your mother-in-law prescribes dietary modifications based on folk wisdom that's been disappointing women for centuries. Everyone has theories about your reproductive failures except the person actually producing these children. Here's the brutal mathematics of continuous pregnancy. Your value decreases while your expenses increase. Each daughter requires feeding, clothing, and eventual dowry preparation. Meanwhile, you're aging out of prime reproductive years without delivering the return on investment everyone calculated during dowry negotiations. Feel the weight of your expanding belly carrying another potential disappointment. The pregnancy announcements have lost their initial excitement and now trigger strategic planning sessions that resemble military councils discussing whether to continue unsuccessful campaigns or cut losses and retreat. Your husband's family debates your reproductive potential like livestock breeders evaluating expensive mares who haven't produced winning horses. Regional fertility consultations involve travelling doctors, local wise women, and occasionally priests who specialise in supernatural intervention for reproductive challenges. They prescribe treatments ranging from dietary modifications to sleeping position adjustments to spiritual practices that make modern fertility treatments look straightforward. But here's where the system reveals its twisted genius. Some women discovered that reproductive failure provided unexpected freedoms. Wives who couldn't produce sons sometimes gained permission to engage in business activities, artistic pursuits, or intellectual interests because their primary function was clearly beyond repair. Listen to the rhythmic sound of prayers being offered for intervention in your reproductive challenges. The economic pressure escalates with each daughter. Your family's original dowry investment has produced 3 expensive children who'll require their own dowries eventually. Your husband's family faces decades of supporting daughters who'll leave to serve other households without providing returns on their upbringing costs. Some households develop contingency plans for wives who consistently produce daughters. Extended family members might adopt male children from relatives. Business partnerships could provide alternative inheritance strategies. A few progressive families even considered allowing daughters to inherit limited property rights. The fourth pregnancy arrives with the weight of an ultimatum. Produce a son or face consequences that range from divorce to permanent social demotion within the household. Everyone's patience has expired. Your reproductive report card shows consistent failure in the only subject that matters. The delivery approaches like the final examination for a course you've already failed 3 times. Family members gather with the resigned anticipation of people witnessing historical disasters they are powerless to prevent. This child's gender will determine whether you get another chance, or begin preparing for life as a divorced mother of 3 daughters. Tomorrow brings your final reproductive examination. But first, let's explore what happens when wives achieve miraculous success after repeated failures. 20 years later, you've mastered the art of being married to someone who might not actually like you, while raising children who belong more to his family than yours. The morning routine has become as automatic as breathing. Wake before dawn, prepare household meals that satisfy 3 generations of critics, manage servant schedules with diplomatic precision, and maintain the cheerful demeanour of someone grateful for 2 decades of serving everyone else's needs, while quietly dying inside. Listen to the familiar sounds of a household that's become your entire world. Your husband greets you with the warmth typically reserved for efficient household appliances. After 20 years of marriage, you've achieved the status of reliable furniture that occasionally produces children and manages domestic crises without requiring emotional maintenance. Romance died somewhere around year 3, but your cooking has definitely improved. The children present their own complex dynamics. Your 4 daughters have learned to navigate family politics with skills that make career diplomats look amateur. They understand that their primary value lies in future marriage prospects, while their current worth depends on domestic competence and absolute obedience to paternal authority. Your miracle son, finally produced in year 18 of marriage, belongs entirely to your husband's lineage and ambitions. He's the family's investment portfolio with reproductive equipment, already being groomed for responsibilities that will perpetuate this cycle of arranged marriages and domestic servitude with the next generation. Feel the weight of accumulated years settling like sediment in your bones. The neighbourhood wife politics have evolved into sophisticated intelligence networks where women share information about family finances, business prospects and marital scandals with the efficiency of professional spies. You've learned to navigate these conversations like diplomatic minefield negotiations. Your mother-in-law, now elderly and somewhat mellowed by your persistent survival, occasionally acknowledges your domestic competence with praise that feels like performance reviews from supervisors who finally accepted that you're probably not getting any better, but won't be replaced either. But here's what 20 years of marriage teaches. Endurance becomes a form of victory. You've outlasted 3 household crises, 2 major illnesses, 1 business failure, and countless smaller disasters that could have triggered divorce proceedings. Your persistence has earned a kind of grudging respect. The social gatherings now include you as a senior wife rather than a nervous newcomer. Younger wives seek your advice about household management and mother-in-law relationships. You've transformed from victim to veteran, sharing survival strategies with the next generation of domestic prisoners. Listen to the sound of children playing in the garden, evidence of your successful, reproductive career. The economic calculations have shifted in your favour through sheer longevity. Your dowry was expensive, but 20 years of household management and child production have generated returns that justify the original investment. You've proven your reputation as someone who doesn't quit when faced with overwhelming domestic challenges and reproductive pressure. The economic calculations have shifted in your favour through sheer longevity. Your dowry was expensive, but 20 years of household management and child production have generated returns that justify the original investment. You've proven cost-effective, if not particularly beloved. Listen to the sound of children playing in the garden, evidence of your successful reproductive career. Your marriage has achieved the stability of 2 people who've learned to coexist without expecting happiness, romance, or even basic affection. You manage separate spheres of influence within the same household, like diplomatic missions from countries that maintain trade relationships but don't particularly enjoy each other's company. The neighbourhood wives now treat you as an elder stateswoman rather than an anxious newcomer. Younger women seek your advice about surviving difficult mothers-in-law, managing household politics, and producing male heirs before their families lose patience. You've become a repository of survival wisdom. Your husband acknowledges your contributions with the enthusiasm typically reserved for reliable farm equipment. You keep the household running efficiently, produce acceptable children, and don't cause public scandals that might damage his business reputation. It's not love, but it's a sustainable partnership based on mutual convenience. The children represent your most complex achievement. Your daughters have learned to navigate family expectations while developing their own strategies for surviving arranged marriages. Your son carries the family's future while you watch him transform into someone who might treat his own wife with the same distant courtesy your husband shows you. Feel the weight of decades settling into your bones like familiar aches. Some evenings, you catch glimpses of what your life might have been with different choices, different families, or different historical circumstances, but regret feels like a luxury you can't afford when survival required complete focus on managing immediate challenges. 20 years of marriage has taught you that endurance is its own form of victory. You've outlasted crises that destroyed other families, adapted to changes that broke weaker women, and maintained dignity while serving everyone else's needs before your own. Tonight, you reflect on survival, but first let's explore what happens when age brings unexpected wisdom and limited power. At 40, you've survived longer than most women, and learned things they don't teach daughters about marriage, power, and the strange mathematics of domestic endurance. The morning brings news that your eldest daughter's marriage negotiations have begun. You sit with her while she learns the same lessons you absorbed 24 years ago. Smile, submit, and hope your future husband isn't completely terrible. The cycle continues with different faces, but identical mathematics. Listen to the soft sound of your daughter's nervous breathing as she contemplates her future. Your role in these negotiations carries weight now. You're not the anxious bride whose family desperately needs alliance. You're the established wife whose opinions about marriage arrangements actually matter. 2 decades of successful domestic management have earned you consultative status in family decisions. But watching your daughter face the same choices you navigated reveals the brutal continuity of women's limited options. She'll trade one family's expectations for another's, just as you did. Her dowry will bankrupt your household just as yours bankrupted your parents. The system reproduces itself through just each generation of women who have no alternative paths. The younger wives in your social circle seek your advice about surviving early marriage challenges. You share strategies for managing difficult mothers-in-law, producing male heirs, and maintaining sanity while serving everyone else's needs. Your suffering has transformed into expertise that helps other women endure similar circumstances. Feel the strange satisfaction of being consulted rather than constantly criticized. Your relationship with your mother-in-law has evolved into something resembling mutual respect. She recognizes your competence while you acknowledge her years of household management experience. Age has mellowed her criticism and elevated your status from problem daughter-in-law to reliable family member. But here's what 20 years of marriage teaches about power. Women acquire influence through endurance rather than direct authority. You can't make major decisions, but your opinions carry weight. You can't control family finances, but your household management skills affect daily life for everyone. The servant relationships have shifted dramatically. The women who once judged your every mistake now defer to your experience and authority. You've earned their respect through consistent competence and fair treatment, creating the first workplace relationships in your adult life where you hold genuine influence. Listen to the household rhythms you've learnt to orchestrate like a complex musical composition. Your husband consults you about business decisions that affect family welfare, recognizing that your domestic insights contribute to overall prosperity. It's not a partnership in any romantic sense, but it's functional collaboration between people who have learned to work together efficiently. The children's relationships with you represent your most meaningful achievement. Your daughters trust you with fears and hopes they can't share with their father. Your son respects your counsel while preparing for responsibilities that will make him the family patriarch. You've created bonds that survive the emotional limitations of arranged family structures. Regional variations in women's middle-age status provided different opportunities for influence. Some areas allowed older wives to manage family businesses. Others permitted participation in religious activities that connected households across community networks. A few even recognized women's roles in marriage negotiations and property disputes. But the fundamental truth remains. Your value still depends primarily on your family's success, rather than your individual accomplishments. Your daughter's marriage prospects, your son's business acumen, and your husband's continued satisfaction with domestic arrangements determine your security and status. Feel the weight of responsibility for outcomes you can influence but not control. The neighborhood politics have evolved to include you as a senior member whose opinions affect community decisions. Younger women's reputations depend partly on your assessment of their character and competence. You've acquired the power to judge other women by the same standards that once judged you. Tomorrow brings new challenges for the next generation. But first, let's discover what happens when women find unexpected forms of resistance within absolute submission. In a system designed to crush individual will, women develop subtle forms of resistance that look like perfect compliance while creating spaces for dignity and choice. The afternoon brings your daughter's formal introduction to her prospective husband's family. A ceremony you remember with the clarity of someone who survived a natural disaster. But this time you're the mother figure helping navigate the political minefield rather than the anxious victim hoping to avoid immediate rejection. Listen to the careful arrangement of tea ceremony elements that communicate family status and values. Your subtle guidance helps your daughter present herself advantageously while maintaining the appearance of natural deference. 20 years of marriage politics have taught you the difference between genuine submission and strategic performance. You're teaching her to survive by mastering the same skills that kept you alive. But here's what decades of domestic servitude reveal. Women develop intricate networks of mutual support that operate beneath official family hierarchies. You coordinate with other wives to share resources, information, and assistance during crises. It's an underground economy of female solidarity disguised as casual social interaction. The servant management has become your primary sphere of genuine authority. You make decisions about household operations, resolve conflicts between staff members, and maintain working relationships that keep the domestic machinery functioning smoothly. It's not freedom, but it's real power over something that matters. Feel the satisfaction of competence recognized and respected within your limited sphere. Your influence over your children's character development represents perhaps your most significant resistance to the system's dehumanizing effects. You teach your daughters to think strategically about marriage politics while maintaining personal dignity. You encourage your son to treat women with respect even within hierarchical family structures. The regional women's networks provide opportunities for subtle rebellion through collective action. Wives coordinate to support each other during difficult pregnancies, share strategies for managing abusive husbands, and occasionally intervene when marriages become genuinely dangerous for female family members. Some women discovered that religious activities offered spaces for intellectual and spiritual development beyond domestic obligations. Temple visits, festival preparations, and charitable works created opportunities for meaningful relationships and personal growth that existed parallel to marriage duties. Listen to the soft conversations between women that carry deeper meaning than surface topics suggest. Your household budget management provides another avenue for influence that extends beyond pure domestic compliance. You make daily decisions about resource allocation, coordinate with merchants and suppliers, and occasionally redirect funds to support family members in ways that benefit women's interests. The marriage advice you provide to younger women contains subtle subversions disguised as traditional wisdom. You teach them to read men's character accurately, identify warning signs of potential abuse, and develop contingency plans for worst-case scenarios. Your experience becomes protection for the next generation, but perhaps the most profound resistance involves maintaining personal dignity while performing absolute submission. You've learned to preserve your inner self while meeting everyone else's expectations. It's psychological survival disguised as perfect wifely behaviour. Feel the complex satisfaction of having endured and learned to thrive within impossible circumstances. Your relationship with your husband has evolved into something resembling respectful coexistence between people who have learned to appreciate each other's contributions without expecting romantic love. It's not the marriage you might have chosen, but it's a functional partnership that serves both your interests. The economic partnership you've developed provides security and stability that benefits the entire household. Your domestic competence contributes to family prosperity, while your reproductive success has secured your position within the social hierarchy. You've achieved safety through excellence rather than affection. Tonight, you prepare your daughter for her own journey through the marriage system. But first, let's explore what the future holds for the next generation of women navigating identical challenges. Your eldest daughter is 17, prime marriage age in a system that views women as investment opportunities with expiration dates. The morning begins with your daughter's final marriage preparation lessons. 24 years of navigating domestic politics have taught you precisely which skills determine survival versus mere existence in arranged marriages. Today you pass down wisdom that can't be found in official guides to wifely behaviour. Listen to the soft sound of silk rustling as you help arrange your daughter's formal meeting attire. Your instruction goes far beyond traditional domestic arts. Yes, she must master cooking, cleaning, and household management, but more importantly, she needs to understand the psychology of power dynamics, the economics of family relationships, and the subtle art of maintaining dignity while performing absolute submission. Here's the brutal lesson you wish someone had taught you. Marriage success depends less on love than on strategic competence. Your daughter must learn to read her future husband's character, understand his family's political dynamics, and develop relationships that will protect her during inevitable crises. The conversation covers topics that would scandalise proper marriage instruction, how to identify signs of dangerous instability in potential husbands, when to seek help from female networks versus when to endure problems independently, how to protect any future daughters from the worst aspects of this system, while preparing sons to treat women with basic humanity. Feel the weight of passing down survival knowledge that shouldn't be necessary but absolutely is. Your daughter listens with the intensity of someone preparing for battlefield deployment, which in many ways she is. Marriage will test every skill you can teach her, plus several you hope she never needs. The best preparation involves understanding that love might not arrive, but competence and strategic thinking can ensure survival. The financial education proves equally crucial. She needs to understand household economics, dowry politics, and the brutal mathematics of women's value in family negotiations. Her future security depends on managing resources efficiently, while appearing to defer completely to male authority. The servant management lessons focus on building alliances rather than asserting dominance. Female household staff can become invaluable allies during difficult times, but only if treated with respect and fairness. Your daughter must learn to lead through competence rather than hierarchy. Listen to the careful way you explain the difference between genuine submission and strategic performance. The reproductive pressure discussion requires delicate handling. Your daughter must understand that her primary value will lie in producing male heirs, but that failed pregnancies and daughter births aren't personal failures despite everyone treating them as such. Preparation for this psychological warfare might prevent the self-blame that destroys many young wives. Regional variations in marriage expectations require the specific strategies. Some areas permit wives greater household authority, others maintain stricter limitations on women's movement and decision-making. Your daughter's success depends partly on adapting quickly to whatever family system receives her. The mother-in-law relationship deserves special attention. These women hold enormous power over daughters-in-law's daily existence and long-term prospects. Learning to navigate criticism, earn respect, and eventually achieve collaborative relationships can determine whether marriage becomes endurable or genuinely pleasant. Feel the complex emotions of preparing someone you love for a system you've learned to survive but never learned to love. Your instruction includes emergency protocols for worst-case scenarios, signs that marriage has become genuinely dangerous, resources for women who need escape routes, knowledge about divorce temples and the practical requirements for accessing them. Every woman needs contingency plans even if she hopes never to use them. The afternoon brings your daughter's formal introduction to her future family. But first, let's explore what marriage contracts reveal about women's legal status in feudal Japan. Today's marriage negotiations will determine your daughter's worth, your family's financial future, and whether 24 years of preparation pays off in a survivable arrangement. A formal meeting room has been arranged with the precision of diplomatic summits between nations negotiating territory rather than families discussing a teenage girl's entire future. Your daughter sits in perfect Caesar position, embodying 20 years of your instruction about appearing simultaneously valuable and submissive. Listen to the careful rustle of documents being arranged for review by people who will determine another human being's destiny. The prospective groom's family arrives, with the authority of buyers inspecting expensive merchandise. They examine your daughter's posture, evaluate her responses to carefully designed questions, and assess her potential value as a household manager, social asset, and reproductive investment. It's a job interview where the position lasts until death and the benefits package includes occasional beatings. Your role in these negotiations has evolved dramatically since your own marriage arrangements. Then you were the product being sold. Now you're part of the sales team, providing testimony about your daughter's domestic competence and reproductive potential based on your own successful navigation of marital challenges. The dowry negotiations reveal the brutal economics underlying romantic terminology. Your family must provide enough silk, gold, and household goods to make your daughter's acquisition worthwhile, while maintaining enough resources to survive the financial devastation of marrying off children. It's economic warfare disguised as generosity. Feel the weight of accumulated debts and sacrifices represented by the treasure spread before calculating eyes. The groom's family evaluates each item with the thoroughness of customs inspectors searching for contraband. One subpar tea set or slightly yellowed silk could trigger renegotiations that extend for weeks and potentially collapse the entire arrangement. Your daughter's future depends on the quality control standards of people who've never met her. But here's where decades of marriage politics provide unexpected advantages. You understand the psychology of these negotiations, the strategic deployment of humility, the careful timing of concessions, and the subtle demonstration of your daughter's superior training all contribute to achieving better terms than desperate families typically receive. The character assessment involves questions designed to reveal personality flaws that might create future problems. Does she express opinions about household management? That suggests dangerous independence. Does she seem too eager to please? That indicates potential deceit. Every natural human response gets interpreted as evidence of hidden defects or superior breeding. Listen to the careful evaluation of your daughter's voice, posture, and facial expression by people calculating her market value. Your daughter's performance demonstrates the effectiveness of your survival curriculum. She answers questions with appropriate deference while subtly displaying competence. She accepts criticism gracefully while maintaining dignity. She expresses gratitude for the opportunity to serve while avoiding desperate eagerness that might suggest family financial crisis. The medical evaluation feels like a livestock inspection. Teeth are examined for signs of decay. Posture is assessed for evidence of spine problems that might affect childbearing. Hair texture and skin quality provide clues about general health and reproductive potential. Your daughter endures this scrutiny with the grace of someone who understands that resistance would doom her prospects. Regional marriage customs add their own requirements to the evaluation process. Some areas expect demonstrations of specific domestic skills. Others focus on religious knowledge or artistic accomplishments. A few require character testimonials from community members who've observed the prospective bride's behaviour over time. The preliminary agreement emerges after hours of negotiation that treat your daughter's life as a commodity trading subject to market fluctuations. Financial terms, household responsibilities and reproductive expectations get documented with legal precision, while emotional compatibility receives no consideration whatsoever. Feel the mix of relief and sadness as your daughter's future crystallizes into contractual obligations. The formal ceremony will occur next month, but the real transformation begins today when your daughter stops being your family's responsibility and becomes someone else's investment property. You've successfully prepared her for survival, but preparation and actual endurance represent entirely different challenges. Tomorrow brings final preparations for your daughter's transformation. But first, let's discover what the ceremony reveals about women's transition from daughter to wife. Wedding day arrives with the solemnity of funeral ceremonies, which in many ways it is. Today your daughter dies as an individual and is reborn as someone's wife. The mourning preparations begin before dawn because transforming a person into a marriage commodity requires extensive staging, complex costuming and psychological preparation for permanent life change. Your daughter submits to hours of elaborate dressing that will make her unrecognizable to herself by ceremony time. Listen to the soft sounds of silk layers being arranged to create the perfect vision of feminine submission and family wealth. The bridal costume weighs approximately as much as a small horse and requires architectural engineering to maintain proper shape. Layer upon a layer of silk robes in colours that communicate family status, seasonal appropriateness and ritual significance. She's being transformed into a living artwork that represents everyone's investment in this arrangement. Your final private conversation with your daughter carries the weight of goodbye speeches between soldiers departing for battlefields from which they might not return psychologically intact. You share last-minute survival strategies, remind her of emergency resources, and try to convey confidence while fighting your own terror about her future. The ceremony itself reveals the true nature of marriage as property transfer, rather than romantic union. Your daughter is formally presented to her new family, like expensive furniture being delivered to customers who've paid in advance. The ritual language emphasizes obedience, service, and reproductive obligations rather than love, partnership, or individual fulfillment. Feel the finality of watching your child disappear into a system that will reshape her identity completely. The wedding procession resembles a funeral march where the deceased person walks voluntarily toward their own burial. Your daughter moves with careful dignity toward a household where she'll cease being your daughter and become someone else's wife, daughter-in-law, and potential mother of children who will belong primarily to their father's lineage. The religious elements sanctify economic transactions as spiritual unions via blessed by divine authority. Priests invoke blessings on an arrangement that treats human beings as property, while family members pretend this represents the natural order of relationships between men and women. The cognitive dissonance is breathtaking. Your role in the ceremony emphasizes your successful completion of daughter-raising responsibilities. You've produced a marriageable woman who demonstrates appropriate training, acceptable appearance, and proven domestic competence. Your own marriage success gets validated through your daughter's successful transfer to another family's control. Listen to the ceremonial language that transforms your child into someone else's responsibility and possession. The gift exchange continues the economic theatre of marriage as a business transaction. Both families present offerings that communicate wealth, status, and reunion while calculating the long-term financial implications of this alliance. Every gesture carries political and economic meaning that extends far beyond individual happiness. But here's the beautiful irony. Your daughter enters marriage better prepared than you were 24 years ago. She understands the system's realities, possesses survival strategies, and carries knowledge that might help her achieve not just endurance but actual influence within her new household's hierarchy. The farewell feels like watching someone vanish into historical records rather than simply moving to a different household. Your daughter's individual identity will be subsumed into her role as wife, and her success will be measured entirely by her ability to satisfy other people's expectations rather than pursue her own goals or happiness. Feel the complex mixture of pride, sadness, and hope as your daughter begins her own marriage journey. The ceremony concludes with your daughter's formal departure for her new home, where she'll face the same challenges you've navigated for 2 decades. The cycle continues with different faces, but identical mathematical brutality. Women's value determined by their ability to serve others while maintaining the illusion of gratitude for the privilege. As evening falls, you return to your own household, knowing you've successfully prepared another generation for survival within a system that treats women as expensive, necessary, but ultimately replaceable components of family prosperity. Your daughter carries your wisdom into her own marriage, and perhaps that knowledge will help her find moments of dignity and even happiness within the constraints of feudal Japanese matrimony. The script ends here, with the recognition that individual women's resistance and mutual support create spaces for human dignity within systems designed to deny it, and that survival itself becomes a form of victory when the alternative is complete destruction of the self. Final moral dilemma. Your daughter faces the same choices you navigated. Endure with grace or risk everything for uncertain freedom. In her position, knowing what you know now, what would you advise? Honour the system that sustained you, or encourage the rebellion you never dared attempt?